Hello, happy Friday. How are we doing? Hopefully we've survived the week. I just wanted to pop on here. There's some new members in this group, which is totally awesome. The earlier in the month, I talked about core rebuilding and retraining post babies, like pre and postnatal, specifically if you have any dysfunctions. Like for myself, I have diastasis, which is that separation of the abs, and a little bit of, which is causing a little bit of pelvic floor dysfunction. So leaking during some movements, specifically jumping, sneezing, that kind of thing. But that kind of goes, that's sort of a broad spectrum even into prolapses. So I spent a little bit of time talking about that earlier in the month for a week. And I just wanted to, I get a lot of, well, what can I do then instead of crunches or planks, because it puts a little bit of pressure, inter-abdominal pressure, and aggravates some of these dysfunctions. So while you're rebuilding and retraining the core, what are some things you can do instead of crunches or planks? And so I have 4 of them today that I shared with my food and fitness group yesterday. And so the 4 exercises are, these are just a few. There's lots more, but here's 4. The first one is, and I kind of showed this one before, and this is bridge pose, but with the core breath. And if you haven't watched the video on the core breath, just search in the group and it'll come up so you know how to do the core breath with these movements, because that's also key, right? Because I've talked about it, that the diaphragm and pelvic floor, they work synergistically, so we want them to be supported with the breath, right? So bridge pose, we want to be feet kind of closer to the backside, but the knees over the ankles, and we want to relax the hamstring. So this here, we don't want to feel that kind of pushing into the side, so we really want to be relaxed in that. And then we want to engage the pelvic floor when we lift. So I find that, bridge pose, especially like if you're a yogi or anything like that, we're usually way up here. And that really starts to activate more of the hamstrings and the glutes. And we really want to focus on the core. So we're not going to probably get up as high as that when we're focusing on rebuilding the core. And this is instead of a crunch. So we're inhaling. And then as we exhale, think about doing a Kegel. So with your perineum, you're picking up, I use the cue, picking up a blueberry with your vagina, but whatever it is for you. So really imagining, really engaging that pelvic floor. So inhale, and then as you exhale, you engage, and then you lift to the point where we don't engage the hamstring. So I'm about here, and then inhale to release. So inhale to release, exhale to engage, or do your Kegel, and then lift into this, right? The glutes are going to support the low back, but they're not firing up in this pose. So we're really focusing on engaging the pelvic floor, the inner thighs, and the lower abdomens in this particular version of bridge pose. So that's the first one. The second one is on the sides, and this one's called Clam Pose. And I find, like, when I lay down on my side, you can see here I'm really rounded in my side. So I grab like another mat or a towel, and you can see that helped kind of straighten out my side. It'll just depend on your natural curve, but I find most of us need a little bit of cushioning there so that we get it straight. The knees are kind of level with the hips, and we want to keep the ankles engaged. So again, the same concept with the core breath. We want to breathe in as we release, and then as we exhale, again, we do our Kegel, and then we pick up the knees, but keeping the feet together. Inhale to release. Again, exhale to do your Kegel, and then so you're engaging your pelvic floor, and then lifting up through the knees. Now notice I'm not getting really high here, because if I do this, right, I start to turn, right? right? Too much, and that's not really, you know, then we're getting more into, you know, a twist in the upper body and stuff in the thoracic spine. So we really want to focus again just on engaging the lower half, right? The deep abdominal muscles. So this one would be a good alternative rather than doing those cross crawl bicycle crunches, because again, if that puts a little bit too much pressure, especially if you have the separation, the diastasis. Number 3 is rather than a plank, and I talked about this, and this was kind of just something new for me as a fitness instructor when I went through this certification. When we're in a plank, especially, and again, I'm talking about when we have dysfunctions in the core while we're rebuilding, right? We want optimal function. This puts a little bit too much pressure on the abs, right? So they start to push forward, which then pushes down. So the modification, rather than full plank, is to come into tabletop. So you're on all fours. And then we curl the toes under. Here, there we go. And then we curl the toes under, and then we're just hovering the knees that way, right? So again, we're inhaling to relax, exhale to do your Kegel, pick up your blueberry, and then hover just above, and then inhale to release. So that's kind of how is, because the center of gravity, right, is in closer, so it's less, the longer the lever, the more demand on the core, right? So we're shortening that so we can keep everything compacted and still kind of get that functionality with the shoulder stability, you know, that little bit of core activation, but we really, again, are using that core breath. So that was a third option, and that one came for Cheryl. So thanks so much, Cheryl, for sharing that one. And then my other one is, last but not least, is a stability ball. And if you don't have a stability ball, I mean, like, they're not that expensive at the stores. I think we bought this one from like Walmart or something. Anyways, stability ball is great for engaging the core because we have to stabilize, right? But again, we're doing this from a seated position, and then that way you can really feel your perineum, almost imagining, you know, that it's a triangle underneath. So you can really feel the perineum underneath by spreading the sit bones. So you, again, you're really engaging through the pelvic floor when you focus on that breath. So this one is a really simple one, and it is actually a really challenging one. I'm at this point, and I can finally do it, but this has taken me a few weeks, almost a month to do. So again, we're inhaling to relax, exhale as we do our Kegel, and then we pick up one foot, and then inhale to release. Again, inhale, exhale, engage our pelvic floor, and then release. Now notice how it's not a high leg lift. Again, the goal is not to shift in the legs. We want to keep the body center on when we lift the legs. So I don't know if you can see that. Even there, I almost shifted. I'm not engaging too much because I'm talking. So do this in a quiet spot where you can really focus on. And again, that's the core 4 right there, and that being your transverse abdominis that you have to stabilize through, your pelvic floor, your diaphragm, and your multifidus, which is your low back. So there's probably thousands of other exercises you can do on a stability ball, but that is you know, one of my favorites that I've picked up along the way that I've been kind of putting in. So those are 4 examples of something you can do other than crunches, or, you know, bicycle twists, planks, those type of things. Again, I talked about it earlier in the month, why that's not recommended while you're rebuilding your core strength until you can get that optimal function back. So that is my Fit Tip Friday, and let me know if you have any questions. Whoop, there you go. If you have any questions about those, and have an awesome rest of your weekend.